Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes before we get started. Let some more people jump on, and then we'll jump into it. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started while a couple more people trickle in. But hello, welcome to our webinar, Enact Solar, in collaboration with European Solar. Today, we're going to discuss battery storage, investment, and financing in the solar industry. My name's Eliza. I'm going to be your moderator today. Super excited to have you guys join us this afternoon for an exciting session. So, today we have Paul Donner, Deep Chakraborty, and Gerard Shepard here, and then Marco Castiglione as well at the end. They're going to help us lead the discussion, guide you through a demonstration, and answer your questions. So we strongly encourage you to utilize the Q&A box down below for any questions that you may have during this session. But once again, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. We'll quickly go over the agenda. So we're going to spend a couple of minutes going over about Enact, telling you guys what we do. And then Deep, our CEO, will go ahead and do a platform demo and showcase our solar design tool. Moving forward, we'll take some time and European Solar will discuss their company, and then we'll do a discussion about market trends. At the end, we'll save some time for a Q&A session. But like I mentioned before, please feel free to utilize the Q&A box as the session is going, and we can answer throughout the session and then at the end as well. So all that being said, I will pass it over to Paul, and he will take it from here.
Thank you very much, Eliza. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see a fantastic turnout today. Many new faces that we're excited to meet and go spend the time with you for the next hour. So we always like to start any introduction of Enact with our vision, because really everything that we do from our product through to our culture is all grounded and geared towards fulfilling this. And so the key thing here is really that we're not just a product company or measuring final outcomes, but we really are looking at the entire customer experience, right? So all the way through to purchase and ownership, everything that we do is geared towards that broader vision. So I just wanted to set that context before we dive a little bit deeper into what it is that we actually do. So very simply, we are a two-sided platform. On the left-hand side, we have installers, and we focus on both residential and commercial installers. And that goes all the way through to end customers, where again, we have both retail customers and corporates. So schools, hotels, manufacturing, really the full gamut of large corporate customers. So really an end-to-end solution covering both retail and corporate. If we dive a little bit deeper in terms of high level what the solution actually does, if we focus first on the left-hand side in terms of installers, Enact enables fully remote 3D design, right? And then we move a step further and we do automated generated proposals within minutes. Of course, this can all be done within your own branded solution. So we can sit behind and the brand speaks for itself. Your brand will speak for itself. We move further from there and we go all the way to doing a very detailed 25-year cash flow ROI analysis. And then we go a step further than that post-implementation, and we actually measure the extent to which the system did what it said we were going to do, right? So that's a very important part. So really going all the way from cradle to grave, and that's a big piece of what we believe makes Enact very different. On the point of differentiation, I'd like to just touch a little bit on this piece because, of course, there's many fantastic design tools out there. But I think where we like to focus and where we truly like to differentiate ourselves is on the data piece, right? So we connect with all the major inverter brands, and as I said, we produce very detailed ROI forecasting, and that comes a lot of credibility, trust, and we stand behind the numbers that we put forward. So I think that's one thing, if you were to take away from this presentation about us, that is really one of the elements that make us very distinct and unique in the space. In terms of who we work with and our reach, so we work with hundreds of installers in the US, as I said, both commercial and residential. We work with some major brands across hotels, real estate, as I mentioned previously. In terms of the journey so far, Enact was founded over 10 years ago now, and we've produced quite a bit of scale since then. So over 12 billion has been processed through our platform. We're active in 35 markets internationally. And for me, in many ways, it feels like it's still the beginning. There's many exciting things as we move forward. Exciting to see many new faces here, as I said, and I will certainly be following up with you after this and hope we can partner going forward. I'm now going to move us on to Deep, who will give us a little bit more of a deep dive into the actual platform itself. I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to Deep.
Thank you, Paul. And I want to try and turn on my video. It says, I think the video is blocked, but I would like to share my screen and dive into the actual platform and show you live how to design solar and storage in minutes. And I'm going to use a UK example here. It's a building that I've personally visited and makes it easier for you to understand, for some of you, the numbers. But on Enact, as you can see, once you get in, you have a lot of different buttons which orient you first, of course, to all the projects. You can start with any project. You can create any location anywhere on the planet. We are in 35 countries, and enter any address, could be in Europe, US, or any other continent. And once you have the address, it forces you to dive deeper into, of course, the project. You can have all your projects in one place. So, and all the data for all your projects at one place. So for this building in Birmingham, there are certain iterations you can see as you get in. We have different project iterations, design iterations, where we have modeled solar with storage or without storage. And the purpose here is, of course, to understand how is the financial return, what's the savings from such projects, and different investment scenarios. Before we do any of those, it all starts with the electric bills. And we keep in close touch with all the utilities. We have a team that manages utility rates. So in this case, this building has different options of providers. And as you can see, we have gone ahead with the actual usage data, which can be entered either monthly or it can be entered as a file upload. And that's a starting point to any solar project, because once the usage and the kilowatt hours are clear, and the usage pattern is, of course, clear, how is the usage during the day? That's a foundation to sizing storage, and the benefit of storage, of course, could be to offset, right, daytime solar into evening usage, if the time of use rates, of course, allow such an arbitrage, depending on where you are in the world. So we have the data, we have the costs, we have the usage patterns, and with that, we have done different scenarios. So I'm going to jump into one of them where we have 933 kilowatts of solar paired up with a couple of batteries, and show you how easy it is. The purpose here is to, of course, not walk you through every button, but show you how easy it is to do the design. So in this case, as you can see on the left, there are plenty of options to configure your design, which starts usually with the roof itself. And you can pick, the available roof area. For example, if you want to highlight a certain area of the roof where you want to put solar in, all you have to do is mark the area. And then you can pretty much do a fill roof, which allows you to place panels. And then you can also do things like obstacles. For example, you can't really install panels, then you have to do a little walkway. And the walkway allows you to eliminate a section of the panels like I did. And then you can view it also, not just in 2D, but in 3D. So here you can see the heights of objects is automatically coming up. In this case, the building has a slanted roof. The image that we use has digital surface modeling, which allows us to pick the heights of objects in seconds. And you can clearly tell that's a wrong north-facing roof. You do not want the panels in, but I just drew that to show you. All the other ones are south-facing. So you can quickly go ahead and delete that, because that was just to give you an idea of how to do it quickly. So once the panels are on the roof, like you have here, the next step is to, of course, pick the inverters and the batteries, which we'll get to today. The inverter selection is here. You can select any of your favorite brands. We just picked one. And it sizes the DC AC ratios. You can select from string inverters or large central inverters. If you have smaller projects, you can do smaller inverters. And based on that, finally get to storage, which we want to show you today. Obviously, without storage, you can also do the design. In this case, there's not a huge storage benefit, but I just want to show you the principle here. In California, where I live, we have much higher benefits from storage because of the time of use rate. In this specific building, there's a little benefit. But before we do storage, we always run the numbers with solar only. It's clear here that there's a little shading going on the edges because of the height of these panels. So you might want to consider eliminating some of the shaded panels, as you can see here. And that can be done in one click. So in this case, you can see for every panel on Enact, what's the shading. So you can see here, these panels are shaded due to the neighboring building. And these can be removed either one by one, or it can also be removed through one single threshold value. For example, if you decide to eliminate certain panels with a certain solar threshold, and that can take care of that. So once you have the solar layout, you have a shade report. You can simulate the design. And the last step here is storage. So we go to storage, and you can choose, again, just like earlier, what brand of battery do you like to use? We have selected an example here. It's 230 kilowatt hour, 230 kilowatt hour total capacity, 2 units. And the mode of usage, whether it's self-consumption or time of use, which we model. This one is an AC coupled unit. And if you were to choose for time of use based discharge, you can even select which are the hours of the day that you want this battery to discharge in the evenings. For example, let's say 5 to 9, and update, and that sets the usage pattern of the battery for discharge, if that's the way you want to use it. As you know, batteries can be modeled with different usage patterns. One is time of use, another is self-consumption, and in Enact we allow both. So with those inputs, it tells you already that the 933 kilowatts of solar on the roof with the 330 kilowatt hours available battery capacity, you're getting to about 60% offset on the energy side. But the most important is the bill. So once you click the simulate button, it runs the numbers for the whole year, 8760 hours, and you get to see some interesting charts. You get to see quickly how much of your total consumption is now covered by solar, and the rest coming from the grid, which tells you that means you don't have enough solar on this roof. You have a little coverage from solar. The rest is really still coming from the grid. And that's why the battery, of course, you don't have much, of course, doing today. And deeper into how independent is the building from the grid for every hour of every day for the whole year, whether it's in terms of imports or exports. The best chart I like, of course, is the one that shows the value of storage. So if you can see here, for the whole year, we know what the storage is doing. On a typical day, you can see when the solar is excess, it can go charge the battery, and then the battery waits till the evening time of use, and we set the time. And so between after 5, it starts discharging, and then if you had a little bit more battery, I guess it would go further and discharge later into the night. But in this case, it didn't make sense because you only have so little solar to charge it with. So a bigger battery may not give you the ROI. And that's the kind of analysis you can run. You can look at every day of every year. Of course, on the max solar day, you can see 26th of May, you have enough solar to charge the battery and discharge in the evening. So this suggests that you could, on that day, have a bigger battery, but then you can't buy a battery just for a day. So on the typical solar day or the median solar day, you do not have enough, right, solar to charge the battery with. So those are types of scenarios you can run. And most important outcome of all of that is the ROI. So what does it mean for the bills? The energy side is one thing. So before versus after, how much of your energy is offset by solar for every month of every year, and of course every day. And then the bills. So in this case, as you can see, in the summer months like June, you'd end up with a 70% bill offset, but then a winter month, you'd end up with only 13. And that's really the whole point of this analysis. Where are you left with after doing all of this? Of course, I'm talking, so this took longer, but usually this takes a few minutes. And based on that, you can now go straight to pricing and finance. And that's the beauty of Enact. It's not just an energy analysis or bill savings estimation platform. It's also a complete project development platform with pricing for all your equipment, including labor, switchgear, commissioning. You can decide how you want to profile these costs, and that is the basis to your margins as a developer or a provider. And you can have different incentives. For example, if you have a feed-in tariff or some kind of an arbitrage, here we have modeled a little incentive. And then finally, financing. A lot of these projects may require a third-party ownership. So you might have a PPA from a third party or a bank loan. All of those can be modeled, customized for your needs. You can plug in different interest rates or terms, or you can have different PPA rates with escalators. All of that is so easy that you do not need Excel sheets again anymore. Of course, this is just a preview, and once you're happy with your numbers, all you need to do is click finish, and that takes you to a proposal. The proposal is all custom. And that's how it looks. So it has nice looking cover page. You can have some information on who your company is, any value props you want to highlight, and then the design, right? You can show how the panels go on the roof, generation, bill offset, savings. The financials, again, as Paul said, are most important. So we get deeper into cash flows and ROI. But to get there, you have to, again, talk about the bills. Where did they start? What was the offset? And then get it into, of course, a battery do for you. So in this case, as you can see, it's highlighting that the battery is allowing them grid independence of a little bit, maybe about 10% or so. So without battery, it was 59% self-consumption of solar. With the battery, it gets you almost 68. And there's ways to make it more independent by having, obviously, more solar panels. and therefore more batteries, and that would shrink the grid. That would be some of the scenarios you could run. And finally, the cash flows. This is the best part I like. So it shows you, if you did this investment, what does it mean for the building owner? And with the upfront cost, which is just an estimate, you could get up to maybe 5 years or 6 years to get your money back, which is based on the savings every year from solar and battery, recovered against the cash flows. This is not showing, of course, all the incentives or tax benefits. It's a very simple analysis. We can run this with financing scenarios as well as many other complicated scenarios as well. So I'm looking at the clock. I know we had a limited time today. I do not think we have a lot here to cover. We are open to any questions you have. Unfortunately, we have about 15 or 20 minutes. I will just leave you with one last minute of preview to another very interesting part of Enact, which we didn't show you today in detail. But for every project that we develop, not only can you do the designs, which is like we show here, but we also integrated with the inverter platform, for example, Solis. So once this gets built, finally by someone, anyone, your teams or your contractors, physically it's built, then we can connect back to the same design. And then for every design, every project, we can then do what we call tracking of outcomes. And that's something we do for every project. I'm showing you an example here. It's a smaller one, but you can track outcomes of what was promised and what's the actual savings in dollars or euros. And similarly, what was the promised generation of the solar and what's the actual? How much of it is going back to the grid? Like, this is a site that has done well in terms of, as you can see, generation, but has not done super well in terms of savings. And the reason is, of course, consumption, right? How can you predict consumption well? So we can do all the planning for every building, but then if in the real world, if the building has too many loads coming on beyond what was promised or expected, then the savings may not be perfect, although the generation may be on track. So we can get down to a lot of detail here on all of that. But today we don't have time, so I'm going to pause sharing my screen and hand it back to Eliza and Gerard to take this over. And thank you again for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks very much, Deep. I think it was a wonderful and very interesting presentation. Thanks for the opportunity of telling something about, I think, which is concerns us all right now. So the solar storage technology, how it can contribute. Well, you just have shown in a few cases what Enact can do with the software. What I would like to do is focus a little bit on the financing, which is one of the challenges I think we see. So for a solar farm, normally the cost would be, if it's one, and with storage, it can be ×4. So there are some complications with that. Before, of course, I want to introduce my company to you all. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gerard Schipper. I started my company in 2016. So next year we have a celebration of a decade. And what we are doing is trying to help either Asian companies who want to sell their products in Europe or market their products, and as well European companies help them source in China. And along the right, we get a lot of questions regarding all kinds of services. We focus and work mainly with investors, EPCs, but also with the Chinese factories and also European factories. So we are the middleman, and we see it as our job to, well, I wouldn't say I don't speak Chinese, but I'm trying to help and mediate between the both, so they try to understand each other, and our goal is to make it happen rather sooner than later. Here are some pictures for the company I'm consulting currently, but also it shows that This is exactly what I'm doing. So it's with ICO, it's with the ambassador of China in The Hague. And also you can see Powerfield in the screen, was one of the biggest EPCs in the Netherlands. So we work with all kinds of different companies you can imagine. And here are some of them. Because we're in the middle, we have a lot of data, and a lot of data we also want to share with the market because we cannot deal with everybody. I have the feeling that, and we also think that it's good to share this with all of you, so we can take profit of that and can benefit of that. So we publish in PV Europe every month, and in Solar 365 in the Netherlands. And we also publish a report which is also free of charge. So it's we do a solar supply chain report. We've been doing that for 4.5 years now, but last year, 12 months ago, we also decided to add the battery storage, as this is one of the hottest items, I think, and hopefully also for you as a solar company. If you're not already working with it, I think it's interesting to look at. The 3 items I want to go through really quickly before I can end up with the financial options and solutions. I want to share with you the contribution of solar technology. I think we're all convinced that solar is a good contribution and it is very profitable, but I just wanted to show it to you in one slide. Of course, the business case of the smart grid solution. So I give you 2 or 3 examples how things can be reached, and then I will end up with some financial options and solutions. Of course, we need to talk more in depth, but it gives you a basic idea. So I took the picture of our big friend Max Verstappen. Hopefully this year he will become a champion again. I think he's won 4 times on a row. But this is the position we have for solar PV and battery storage. So you can see there's a good return of investment if you look at the other renewables. So the question is, why solar? Because we have a good return of investment, and it's the best return of investment. Which are the technologies right now? Well, it looks like the lithium ion is winning by a long shot right now. So it's the most efficient and it's the most cost efficient. So this is on the technology side what I want to add to that. The grid as it is, for those of you who are maybe a little bit new in the market, the first picture shows how the grid was. So it was a one-way power flow, simply coming from the grid to your house or to the industry. This is the way we knew it, but with solar added and all kind of other renewables, you saw that it's a two-way stream. Now, of course, we're trying to, let's say, complicate things because we cannot change the grid overnight, and add storage with it. So, and try to use it as a sort of microgrid and a smart grid, so that we're trying to learn with software, when do we need the energy, when can we use the energy, and store it on battery. Because if there's a moment that everybody goes to work, let's say at 9 o'clock, and the full industry wants the energy at one point, it could cause problems if it already doesn't. This means that we have a lot of challenges in terms of the information flow. So this is crucial. So we're moving from a technical industry, which could be called like the solar industry, to a more ICT driven industry. I would say that the software is basically deciding of the success. So we move away from all the big brands which we were used to, and we thought that maybe Trina Solar or Phono Solar was having a better module than Jinko, or was higher quality. I think we're moving away from that. Now we're looking at the total solution, and the solution and the winner's solution will be how well can you connect the energy management system with the battery management system. So a lot of challenges, and we're not going to talk about all of them right now, but we're talking about data protection. Of course, this is a hot item. We're talking about fire protection. So there are quite some challenges in this, because you don't want to have your grid with an open communication line for everybody to add. But on the other hand, we also need to feed the manufacturers and the battery providers because with information, because otherwise they cannot um, make their product better. So here are some challenges. If anybody wants to know, of course, I can go into deep that, but this is not really the topic of today, but just that you know. So here we see like a more modern electric power and communication infrastructure, and we call it like a smart grid solution. This is very much the future, so not as we cannot enlarge the grid right now, so we have to be creative, and you see that there is a lot of intel in it, and so and this is really the future. As I told you, the landscape will change in the next few years. Of course, we see electrical cars, we see battery storage every now and then, but it's still moving slow. It differs a little bit from territory to territory. I think the UK is quite mature. Germany for home systems is quite mature, and the Netherlands and France are coming, but there's still a long way to go. The chances are there, so every company who's now into solar, don't wait too long. It's expected, the market is expected to boost this year as it is right now, so don't wait until tomorrow, preferably start today. It will not last a very long time. So it will be a huge hype market, and it will take around 5 years. Why do we think that? Because we think that there's also once you want to make money on it, you have to go to the different disciplines markets or other markets to sell your energy to. And because there is pricing, of course, you can charge them by money. Well, these, as there is more storage, you can imagine that the supply and demand will slowly will be on even par, and then the business case will go down. So it's really vital to start. So we will move also to normally it was a demand-driven supply. You will see now that you will go to a supply-driven demand. Well, the financial options I want to go through quickly. I've chosen 3. You know, I could have chosen like 10. So the financial options is obviously when you have a storage park, you can go to a bank for financing. What you will see in the reactions of the bank, it differs, let's say, from country to country, because in the UK you have some fixed prices, which make banks obviously very happy. But you see that in the other territories where you have no fixed pricing but a very good return of investment, the banks are only willing to invest or to give you a loan for 40, 50, maximum 60%. So when you're easily talking about 60, 70, 80 megawatt hour plant, about a couple of, let's say 12, 13, 14 million, there's still a lot to finance. So we need to educate the banks about, because they are scared that you're going to sell on the grid for high energy price and low energy prices. And basically they see it as that if you go to a casino and as a too big a risk. So we cannot, if you are a little bit bigger sized utility sky or even CNI, we can't only depend on the banks. So be aware of this. So I've looked also into some other solutions, and I've put here Sinosure. Sinosure is the Chinese credit company. It's owned by the state, and this could be quite an interesting option maybe for you guys, for those of you who have already ordered products from China, probably have heard about it. But what you could do is you have, if to find bankability, can be either, if you're an EPC, for example, can be your company, but can also be the owner of the park, of the future park. And based on these credits, normally you could go maximum like maybe 30, 45 days credit line. Now with Sinosure, we see that there are options to even extend this to 6 months, a year, or even longer, as long as there is a strong backup. So this makes it much more interesting, and also for the banks, they will like this because they feel that they get support also from another company, so they don't have to bear all the risk themselves. So if you're interested to learn more, don't hesitate to ask in the Q&A. And the third option is leasing. I've seen here one or two options, some leasing options, and also you can look at financial leasing of the hardware or even operational leasing. This is something which is a work in progress, but we're currently looking at also some financing from China, but in a leasing form, which could be very interesting to make the transition to storage go quicker. This is not too mature, but I just wanted to let you know that this is in development, and it could be helping you maybe in the future for your customers. So our conclusion is that financial feasibility and sustainable objectives can go hand in hand once again. So this is, I think, very good. And just quickly, I wanted to show you two projects I'm currently working on and consulting with is Solar Park Brandewal. We built this and we've been there 4 years, quite a special project. And now storages will be added. So that could be very interesting for the return of investment. It's expected to do, I think it's going to be like a top 3 storage park in the Netherlands to be realized in September. So I have all the basis of that. We're currently financing and choosing the right supplier. So in a couple of weeks, I can give you all the answers about this park. And yeah, this is a little bit of an overview on all the parks we've been working on and we're currently working with and have done in the past. So yeah, that's all. I like Deep was saying, I did it in a little bit on the fast road, but I'm sure if anybody wants to go in more detail, we have a little bit time in the Q&A session. And for this, yeah, if you want more information or you want our help, we can seal your deal. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul, Deep, and Gerard for your presentations. I was thinking we could go ahead and move into our market trends discussion. And I'd like to start with you, Gerard. Just wondering what your opinion is, and as an expert on the European market, can you talk about, challenges or opportunities within the market?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Eliza. It's there are several challenges. I think the people in the webinar will probably agree that it's been a very challenging year in 2023, and that we're happy now that it's 2024. And actually today and yesterday, in the coming days, it will be very sunny weather, at least here in the Netherlands. So this means that the sun is literally starting to shine again. We've seen that the home systems suffered a lot. So you see a shift towards C&I and utility business, looking on the demand side. So this is quite a shift. I mean, if you're only doing home systems, you see that companies try to shift to the C&I, but also with the entrance of storage, you see now that a lot of companies added storage and also want to go to the C&I market and maybe to the utility side market, because this is now the bigger markets. So this is quite a shift, I would say, from the demand side. Shifts we see from the supply side. So I also said in the presentation, we saw that in the past we talked about a lot about the differences of brands, of solar modules and inverters, and maybe even about mounting materials. I think this is basically not a discussion anymore. We can safely say that solar modules today can be called a commodity. But now we're shifting to storage, and in this storage, we were already used that maybe there were like 400 or 500 potential suppliers of solar modules, but we see maybe 10 times more suppliers on storage. And I see this the history repeating. A lot of people call me that they found this Chinese brand and they have a good sales guy and he's very trustworthy, and this usually means that they have a good price. And I always try to warn everybody. So there are a lot of companies coming to us, to the market, and it's no different from the US and then Europe. So of course we're very receptive to that. We haven't found them through the usual ways, but I always give like a rule of questions you need to ask. So and this is also the things I'm doing by choosing the right suppliers, if people want me to allow me to do that. So I will give you the three, and hopefully the people in the room can use it if you don't use it. So first of all, yes, it's got to be a reliable person you're talking to. So this is good. Second of all, do they have, if they're Chinese, a European head office? So this is one big thing. Then the third, is this a financial strong company? Because we've seen now over the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of brands have disappeared. So, and as we don't really have a tier 1 bankable list on storage, it's coming, but it's not really there. So we have to do it and warn each other and call each other, but this is an important one. And last but not least, maybe you should start with that. Do you have the certificates for the market you want to use it in? And then you will see, I've been on a round trip through China, visiting factories, trade shows, and so on, having different calls. I learned that out of the 75 manufacturers I've been speaking with, only 5 were qualified on these 5 questions. So, and then basically in 10 minutes, story is over for me. And I would really advise people to do that, because you can spend a lot of time, but if they're not certified, it will take like 9 to 12 months to get the right certification. So it's useless. Yeah, so and I talked in the presentation, you see a strong shift towards like the software oriented companies. Look at the energy management system, because this is basically, if you want to go in storage, this is the system which is going to make the money for you, and it's always done locally. So you can talk in your local language with the guys who are trying to sell you the EMS system or want to work with you. And there is another advice: just look a bit through the organization, because you see that there's a lot of youngsters, it's small companies, it's ICT. So if you're not really into this technology stuff, just ask someone in your company who is, to help them, or ask me maybe to what are the top 2 or 3 EMS systems in your country, and maybe I can help you. So it's a little bit long answer, Eliza. I'm sorry for that, but it's there's quite some things happening these days.
Thank you for that. I don't know if Paul or Deep wants to add into the market discussion.
No, I think Gerard has covered it well.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you, Gerard. We can move into Q&A. I have a few questions here that I think would be good for the team. Gerard, I have one for you, actually. The first one is, how do I know my credit line with SaniSure, and how can I apply it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So basically, you can, if you haven't got a Chinese supplier, basically the best thing would be to ask me first. But if you have worked with a Chinese supplier before, ask them if you can get a credit line with SaniSure. They will probably ask you, and don't do it in a quick way, but rather give your company finances, so the year results, send them accompanied with a full written sheet. So that you have, and then you will, in return from SaniSure, you get a reply of that. If you want a special treatment with SaniSure, and you're talking about extended payment terms, even from 1 year or longer, or let's say 6 months, then it's best maybe to ask me first, because obviously not all Chinese suppliers like to work like that, or even know this option. So then it would be best to contact me first, maybe.
Great, thank you.
for quite some time. Actually, it's not only about storage. I've been looking for this kind of option for 5 years because I thought it was rather silly because we have so much trade between China and Europe, and I couldn't understand that it's all financed and pre-financed. So you will see for the solar, it's a little bit easier now because it's quite a mature thing. For storage, unfortunately not. And this really is a challenge. Like I said, you have to pay like 4 or 5 times. You have 4 or 5 times the cost of a solar farm. So it's really something to consider. And you don't want to develop a project for 18 months and then find out that your bank only wants to finance like 40 or 50%, and the rest of it, basically you're in the dark. And you see that a lot of companies are struggling with that right now. So that's basically the answer, a little bit longer answer to the question. So no, not as far as I know right now, there are no other options than this. So this is why I want to do it with the source and the Chinese directly.
Awesome. Thanks. That was great. I have a couple questions for the Enact team as well. We can just start out with how does your software determine when and how much the battery selected will charge and discharge?
Yeah,
Hello,
so I'm
yes.
go ahead,
Yes,
Marco,
did
please.
you take? Okay.
Yes, I was just showing that earlier, like you have the
Yes.
8760, which means every hour of every day for the whole year. That's how we model it for every system. So we have the generation for every hour for the whole year. We have the usage of the building for every hour for the whole year. And that's how we then layer in factory that has an evening shift benefits from that time of use arbitrage, and maybe even a hotel does because of evening load. But then if you have a school without a large evening load, everything's usually over by 6 or 7, then you do not need that time of use type mode. So it's entirely up to the use case of the building.
Yes, when we showed it briefly during the demo, I deep hovered over that part of the platform where you can choose what type of charge and discharge profile you want to use. Basically, there are two. One is the custom, where you choose the hours when you would like the battery to discharge, and the other one is the self-consumption, which basically will have the goal of always using energy from the PV and the battery and the least possible from the grid. And that's where you will see then the charge and discharge profile in those nice graphs that have like a few colors. If you remember the yellow, green, and blue areas in that graph, basically it's up to the user to choose which profile to adopt, and then looking at those results and see what is the best size of the battery that you can use, and in comparison with the size of the PV system. So Enact gives you all these answers rather quickly and easily.
Awesome. Thanks, Marco and Deep. I have another question for you guys. The question is, we use many types of batteries, sometimes made by new or small manufacturers. What if I can't find the battery in your product's database?
Right. And
It
this
can,
goes perfectly hand in hand with what Jared was talking about, right? With the new batteries. So hopefully all the batteries you use are certified. But you're right. Sometimes these batteries, even they've just come out into the market, so they may not be available in other platforms. And so with Enact, we have a very large database of products that we use, whether that's batteries or inverters or PV modules, but also you can create your own products. So you can take your data sheets and just a minimal experience about what the numbers mean. You can create your own product. The easiest thing to do is to pretty much duplicate one that's already in there and just change the product name and, for example, in case of battery, the capacity, um, the efficiency, the discharge, and charge power. So basically, you'll never run the risk of not being able to model a project because a product is not there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Looks like that's all the questions that we have at the moment. But I just wanted to thank Gerard and European Solar for partnering with Enact and us on this webinar. If anybody has any final thoughts or things they'd like to share, please feel free.
Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to working with you.